You and I, we make this beloved circle whole. So come and join in. We've been waiting for you. Let's begin in love and in openness to grow our faith and understanding of the things we use do for love. So let's put our hearts and our heads in harmony, rise in body or in spirit, and spiral in. Zoe's gonna lead us with You Gotta Do. You gotta do what the Spirit says do. You gotta do what the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do. Oh Lord, you gotta do when the Spirit says do. 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 You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you've got to sing. Oh Lord, you've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. 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 You've got to clap when the Spirit says clap. You've got to clap when the Spirit says clap. When the Spirit says clap, you've got to clap. Oh Lord, you've got to clap when the Spirit says clap. 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 You've got to dance when the Spirit says dance. You've got to dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says dance, you've got to dance. Oh Lord, gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. 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 You've got to do when the Spirit says do. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you've got to do. Oh Lord, you've got to do when the Spirit says do. 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 Now let's join Ivy in lighting the flame of our faith.
Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather together to celebrate the glories and mysteries of this great gift.
So now we pause for a caring awareness practice, and today we'll be doing our connection in the web of life to the ox. Why is the ox so important? Well, here's a clue. That's right. This year is the year of the ox,
And we'll cover the 4 different qualities that are in the ox that are also so highly revered about it. So you can get into the position of the ox with your body, or you can just do it in your mind and spirit. Here we go. Breathing in and breathing out. First, we sense flow, or the ongoing energy of the ox. The ox is known for this kind of ongoing persistence, and that also is in us. Breathing in and breathing out. Next, we focus on the ox's solidness. How sturdy in the ground. If you feel your hands and knees, if you're on your hands and knees, or you can feel that in your spirit and your mind. The sturdiness of the ox, very reliable, very solid, connected to the earth, and strong. Breathing in and breathing out. And the third thing about the ox is its humility and its quality of being honest and just as it is. So breathing in and breathing out. And the last thing about the ox that we focus on, which is in the ox and a quality in us, is that freshness. Or in Chinese culture, it's this positivity, this kind of can-do spirit. So breathing in awareness of that in ourselves as well. And breathing out. A happy Chinese New Year to those who are celebrating. We honor the ox for its qualities of ongoing persistence, its strength and groundedness, its honesty and humility, and finally, its can-do positivity. For our moment of inquiry today, I have something important to teach you, and that is a very basic thing about Unitarian Universalism that goes with our monthly theme. Are you ready? First U, so if you put your hand up like this, remember the first U, Unitarianism. Unitarians believed in something very strongly, and that was that the power of our intellect, our minds, our thoughts, and what we know is super important in making decisions about care for the world. So our Unitarian forebears are people that really believe that we should think and reason, even if it doesn't fit what our culture tells us is right or true, that we have the right to make decisions based on what we know to be true if we've really been careful and responsible in our thinking. Okay? The second U, you got your other U up? This Universalism. Universalism focused a lot on the heart. So people who were Universalists in the past really worked at being inclusive, were very, very much caring about all people feeling accepted and worthy, even from their birth, that they didn't have to earn their value, that they didn't have to feel blessed by someone else, that just because we are born into this world as humans, that we have great worth and are worthy of love. And so, just like our monthly theme, Unitarian Universalism has always been this dance of mind and heart together making decisions about things and choices in our world. Okay, so that's a really important part to celebrate today in terms of the things we do for love. Now, I have a question for you. What do you think these green team members were doing when they're drawing from our source of humanism and science? So they use their reason and science, and they're doing something about something they care about with their hearts. And here's the answer, something that they want us to do out of love for the earth. Our Green Team group and our Adult Environmental Justice Ministry have come together this month to offer you a call. And that call comes from the Rochester Area Interfaith Climate Action Group. And it's to reduce your food waste. Did you know that food waste has become the #1 thing that we can do in our homes, in our institutions, and in our culture to try to reverse the effects of climate change? So here's our Green Team kids offering you a few suggestions. One of my favorite ones they don't mention is to become better friends with your freezer. Anyway, here they are, and I would encourage you to look in your newsletter as well as at this website for more information.
Do this and keep a clean and organized fridge so that you see everything and don't forget about stuff that could be spoiling, because then you have to get rid of it, even if it's still good food. And do not throw away leftover food, because that's not a good idea. You can use it for other meals.
Wow, this is gonna be a great lunch. Agreed, and I'm glad that I'm freezing these bananas so we can have banana bread or milkshakes tomorrow. That's gonna be a lot of garbage though. We have carrot peels, banana peels, eggshells, even some old pasta I found in the fridge. That's a lot of garbage. Or we could compost it to cut back on our carbon emissions and cut back on waste. Can you open the lid? Thanks. Wow, our compost bin is so filled. It's also really convenient that you just need to walk across the kitchen floor to get to it.
Many people don't drink enough water because it's simply just because they don't like the taste of it. Instead of using water flavoring, which is the outside is made out of plastic, you can use something that can be composted, but before you compost it, you can use something like orange peels to flavor your water, or apple slices or apple peels, or even lemons.
Great big love for our interdependent web of life. Our story today comes from the Jewish tradition, and it is a story that is central to a festival later this month called Purim. It's the story of Esther. Esther is so strong and so courageous in her decision about what she's going to do about love and justice. So, one thing you should know, if you don't know this about this story, is it is in Jewish custom to boo or hiss or make a heckling sound every time the narrator says the word Haman. Haman is the name of the character who's very hateful and mean in the story.
The Persian Empire was a wonderful kingdom. The Persians had conquered the world and took many of God's people as exiles, so there were lots of Jewish people living there. The king of Persia was a mighty ruler. To celebrate his wonderful rule of Persia, he held a week-long banquet. The king asked his wife Vashti to come to the party and show what a beautiful wife he had. Vashti refused to come. This angered him. Nobody had ever refused the king. So the king banned her from the kingdom and began a search for his new wife. His servants searched far and wide for the most beautiful woman in the world. When they brought the woman to the king, he immediately chose the prettiest of the bunch, Esther. Esther was very surprised because she was just an average girl who lived on a farm with her uncle Mordecai, but she accepted the offer. Esther became the queen of Persia, but she was Jewish and kept that a secret. One of the king's most important officials was a man named Haman. Haman was a terrible man who hated the Jews. One day, Haman went to the king and presented a plan. The plan sounded like it was going to protect the country from enemies, but it was really going to ban all the Jewish people from Persia. Haman didn't know that Esther was a Jew, so he had no idea what he was about to do to the queen. When Mordecai, Esther's uncle, heard about the new law, he was mortified. All the Jews across the country went into mourning, but Mordecai came up with a plan. He told Esther to make her Jewish identity known to the king. Esther went to the king and asked to have a meal with him and Haman. During dinner, she told the king about her Jewish identity and what Haman was planning to do. The king was furious. And the guards banished Haman from Persia. So Persia lived in peace once more.
Now, in response to the story, I would invite you to find an object in your house, and collectively we can make an impromptu little altar together. So is there something in your space that represents this kind of love that is protective, that is courageous, and that will always have your back? So maybe it's an object that somebody gave you, or maybe it makes you think of this person, or maybe it's a picture of them. Whatever you'd like. I'll put mine up here on the screen while you look for yours. Bring it so that other people can see it on the screen. The three things I love about this story that teach me something or remind me about is the first one is that she's protecting and she's really affirming that inherent worth and dignity of every person and taking that risk against a system where it's very male dominated, right? She has the men as king and she has men as Haman, and she stands up to that and reveals her own identity, saying, I am who I am and I'm going to save my people, right? So very much not a bystander, very much an upstander in herself. Yes, Esther. The second thing is that she's responsible for the truth that she knows. An important part of the story is that she just doesn't hear what this truth is going around, but she actually takes action from her heart and her mind to do something about it. Very much like our principle of that responsible search for truth. If you're listening in or you hear or know something, that we have the responsibility to show up and do something. And the third thing is that she's using her power nonviolently. So she's standing up to the king and standing up to Haman by speaking her truth and saying, this is who I am, which was a risky thing for her to do, and that I'm not wanting my people to be harmed. Second risky thing she did. So much gratefulness towards Esther and this capacity to do things out of love and the need for justice where she was in her time. And for our time of witness today, we have Maya Waller, who, like Esther, is using her voice to try to change the way things happen at the top level of what's going on in a culture. In this case, it's the Rochester Police Department. And Maya and a few of her friends are speaking out against an incident of racism, sexism, and ageism that happened just last week against a child in the city of Rochester. And so here's Maya calling out to all of us to get behind a law, Daniel's Law. Daniel's Law is a law that came up because of Daniel Prude in the summer, and that is so that people's minds and their hearts can have that kind of harmony and care from our culture and not treated from the police with harm and with extra measures that makes them feel like they're being punished because they're having a hard time. And so here's Maya speaking a few words to encourage us all to get behind Daniel's Law so even children can be protected by it.
We need to act. We need to change the system. And we need your help. Soon, legislation for Daniel's Law, a law that mandates mental health responders rather than police be at the scene of mental health calls, will be introduced. We need the people to push this piece of legislation.
For this responsive affirmation, you can say it out loud Or you can say it simply in your heart by looking at the person's picture that you'll see on your screen. And Chloe is going to start us off. So you'll see a picture and then you respond in your heart, I too am beautiful, knowing that that person is beautiful just like you.
I too am beautiful. 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 I too am beautiful.
Great big love from church, and so much appreciation for all the things you do for love and for justice in the world. Bye for now. See you next time.
I